We made it. We made it. Did we do it? Did we do it? We did it. Holy cow. Sorry about the late stream, guys. Sorry I'm getting started late. Had to go and do capitalism, right? Had to go talk to some... Had a meeting that I had to go to. So I'm rushing around. McDorks! I think you're the first in, Watson, so you're the McDork. Good to see you, bud. Good to see you, bud. Let's start with a song, why not? Let's put that up here. These times they are uncertain, of that there is no doubt, and nobody can tell me quite what it's all about. The heartbreak and the loneliness, the chaos and the fear will make even the strongest cry. I wish my ma was here. A young man on a battlefield fights for a rich man's gold. The bullet cracks into his spine. He knows he won't grow old. And as the tears come streaming down, and once his mind goes clear, the war was fought for nothing, he cries, I wish my ma was here. A lively story well in hand, a joke to soothe your soul. And when it came to arguing, she'd forgive and let it go. And when I cried, she held me, told me it's okay, my dear. And as we face these darkened days, I wish my ma was here. And as we march into the streets, as all the righteous do, we'll raise our voices to the skies. We cannot stop the truth. And as we tear their structures down, we'll raise a victory cheer. We made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. Yeah, we made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. Hey, Base, how you doing? Nova Scotia, Ligandese, Eric, good to see you. Compton, good to see you guys. Sorry about getting late. Sorry about starting late, guys. Out of curiosity, do people in your capitalist job know what you do? If so, how do they take it? So, the job that I work is I would say that the people who I work with are sympathetic to what I am doing. I think that I work in an environment that tries very hard to accommodate the staff. That if it were to, like, I think that the person who began the business only structured the business in the way that it's structured because it was understood by everyone that this is how you structure a business. Like, he wasn't sitting there being like the scheming capitalist. And everything I know about him tells me that he's doing everything he can to give more power to workers and do all that kind of stuff. I just don't think he sees and that they see how to move forward in that way. You know? That if suddenly it became in vogue and everyone across Canada was like, worker businesses, like businesses should be owned by the workers, I feel like this establishment would be like, okay, like that they would move in that direction. I just don't think that they know how, nor do I think that they want to necessarily be like the trailblazers in this regard. It's a good place to work. They're very nice and very accommodating, and they're trying very hard, I think, to make everybody happy and to... is it a co-op that's not a co-op? Like, it's... Yeah. Like, maybe you should talk about worker co-op. Maybe you should do, like, yeah. Like, everybody should. Everybody should. It's not a co-op. Obviously, like, there are owners, right? Like, that it's got that capitalist structure about it. But, like, to actually make it a worker co-op would mean that the workers would need to take out a loan and buy it. But that's what it would be. And I don't necessarily know that the people I work with are willing to take that jump. You know? Maybe not. Again, like, are we going to be the trailblazers? Like, are we the ones... Like, I mean, I think that I would be down for it, but like everything, right? So I feel like the word that I would use is sympathetic. That's the word that I would use. Like, are they firebrand, ready to throw Molotov cocktails into the streets kind of stuff? No. Yeah, it sounds like a super benevolent capital thing. Yeah, like, I mean, my experience with it is that the owners... Like, the people who started this business started it because they believe in what they're doing, right? They're not getting into it to, like, make the money and all that kind of stuff. They got into it because they wanted to own a restaurant and be cooks in a restaurant, you know? And, like... So, benevolent dictators, sure, Watson. Like, sure. That, like, all of the food that we serve is locally sourced. We make very strong decisions based on waste and climate change reasons and all of this. Like, we're doing everything we can to make sure that everything is healthy, that it's good food. We don't do, like, prepackaged bullshit. If you're eating something out of this establishment, it's coming from the province of Ontario. And, like, I do think that if the workers got together and actually, like, attempted to unionize or attempted to push forward, if that did happen, I don't know that there would be much by way of pushback. And I think because of that, the workers at the place kind of... There's a big question of, like, well, why bother, right? Like, why should we do this? It's not like down in, like, the southern states, for example. Like, I encounter this a lot here when I talk to Starbucks people. I'm like, hey, like, why don't you unionize, right? There's a huge unionization thing going throughout the United States. Like, why don't you do this? And there's a lot of, like, yeah, well, I guess we could, blah, blah, kind of attitude. And I get to thinking about why that's the case. And it's like, because the minimum wage here is $15 an hour. And so I feel like the people who are working at places like Starbucks and who are working at cafes are like, yeah, things could be better, but, you know. Whereas down in the States, like, the minimum wage is $7.25, right? Like, get completely fucked, right? Like, if you're working in the States, you're getting completely wrecked. And so you have to unionize. And so that's what's going on there. Yeah, my job at the fish plant, the owners are completely against workers' rights, yeah. My workplace... dictator has had 3 people killed in the establishment in the last 2 years. Yep. And that's a good reason to have a union, right? Like, you got that kind of shit going on. And meanwhile, like, as we continue to document the decline, right? Blackstone, world's largest real estate investor, sees significant opportunities in Canadian student housing, multifamily rentals, and more. What do you think's happening to the market, guys? Like, what do you think's happening to the market, right? Like, everything's getting bought up by worthless speculators and investors. Like, what do you think is happening? Blackstone Inc., the American real estate giant that announced plans to expand its Canadian operations last month, says it intends to expand its portfolio of Canadian assets significantly in the coming years, with a focus on industrial space, multifamily rentals, and student housing. In an interview on Monday, Blackstone real estate director Nadim Mejig said the company sees an opportunity to acquire and in some cases develop office space, rental buildings, and more in several Canadian cities. We have scale capital, and that allows us to invest heavily when we get excited about certain assets, says Mejig. Our hope and expectation is that we're going to grow our portfolio significantly in Canada in the coming years. To date, Blackstone owns roughly 450 properties in Canada, mostly warehouses and industrial spaces, along with a few towers. In the coming years, the company says, it will be interested in office space for life science technology companies and studio production facilities for entertainment companies. We're seeing a content revolution and a burgeoning life science technology ecosystem in some major Canadian cities. There's a way to express a view on these trends in technology by buying hard assets, says Mejig. Janice Lynn, a former Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board executive who is tapped to helm Blackstone's Canadian arm, said the company also has a particular interest in purpose-built student housing in smaller urban markets, citing Kingston, home to Queen's University, as an example. When you think of the housing that's available across major universities in Canada, there's not enough supply because worthless investors like these are buying them up, and not enough purpose-built student housing. So we're thinking about how can we improve supply and build up stock and then jack up the rent. Student nodes would not be in downtown Toronto, for example, added Lynn. If you're looking for student housing, Kingston has a big student base that we can exploit and jack their rent. One type of real estate the company is not investing in, Mejig said, is Canadian single-family homes. Since the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic, institutional investors have faced sharp criticism. Have they? From who, exactly? For buying up single-family homes and transforming them into rental properties. A tactic critics say is exacerbating an affordability crisis in Canada. Wow, they're actually talking about it for once. Like buried on what? Literally paragraph 6, right? Let's hear the worthless response to this. Blackstone's May announcement sparked fear among housing advocates. The private equity firm, which bought more than $5.5 billion worth of single-family homes in the U.S. after the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis, would test this strategy north of the border. But the company has no intention of investing in single-family homes in Canada, Mejig told the Star. Bullshit. It's just not our focus. When we think about the Canadian market, we got most excited about investing in real estate assets, like logistics and urban office buildings. To the extent we invest in rental housing, the focus will be on multifamily rentals, and even that is a small percentage of our business. Blackstone is like a $5 trillion company. So, if they have $500 billion worth of rental assets, that's a small percentage to them. Blackstone's Canadian properties are worth roughly $14 billion in total, the company says, so just a small percentage. Globally, the company has a real estate portfolio worth approximately $514 billion, right? And that's just their real estate portfolio. So and in the meantime, Ontario increases amounts landlords can raise rent by highest level in a decade. Ontario is more than doubling the maximum rate a landlord can raise a tenant's rent next year, making the highest rent increase guideline in the province in a decade. On Wednesday, the province announced Ontario's rent increase guideline for 2023 is 2.5%. Previously, landlords were allowed to raise rent by 1.2%, following a rent freeze that rolled out in 2020. The last time Ontario's rent increase guidelines reached 2.5% was in 2013. As Ontario families face rising cost of living, our government is providing stability and predictability to the vast majority of tenants by capping the rent increase guideline below inflation at 2.5%. Right? This is what you get for electing the worst premier in the history of the nation. And at this stage, I'm happy to say in the nation. Pick a province, you're not going to find a premier worse than Ford. Right? You're just not going to find a worse premier. I was reading a headline the other day with the article about Canada talks less about unions, they have higher union rates. Have you heard about the SCOTUS decision earlier this month, where they overturn a ruling where border federal officers can be sued for misbehavior. Yeah, they're just protecting cops. No reason to like read an article about it. Like, yeah, they're protecting cops, obviously, because the cops are the front line, right? Like, rich people retreated to their gated communities and surround themselves with cops. And so any legislation to hold cops accountable, they need to get rid of that. The last thing that these rich people want is for cops to be held accountable for anything, right? They rely on the cops. As long as the cops are willing to crack heads for them, then they're safe, right? The former Canada Pension Plan Investment Board executive helming Blackstone's Canadian arm. Talk about parasitic relationship. Yeah. Not the focus right now. Wait until the interest rates rise. People walk away from their homes. Yeah. Well, people walk away. Like, people are forced out. Which is the whole plan, right? Like, Blackstone, like, it's so crazy to me that we're not, like, like, this should be, like, literally the front page. Like, every headline of every newspaper every day should be Blackstone and then what they're doing. Like, these guys are the guys that are running the show. There's just, I don't know why we think anything else is happening. Like, they're the largest, Blackstone and Vanguard are the largest owners of stock shares, real estate, all kinds of shit. Like, if you're doing business with Blackstone. They hold literally monopoly level shares within the market that they live in. Like, we've got to be stupid to not be constantly skeptical and constantly be talking about these guys. Constantly. And yet, like, every so often we get, like, a little tiny article from these guys, right? Probably one of the most important people in the world right now is Larry Fink, the CEO of Blackstone. And we just don't know anything about him. We don't pay any attention whatsoever. But, oh God, let's have another conversation about Muskie Boy, right? And his stupid face. Oh yeah, if you want to see something interesting, this is a good one from David Dole. So, there is an ex-Trump aide testifying at Capitol Hill, Cassidy Hutchinson. She's talking about what occurred from her perspective. She's testifying about what she saw from Donald Trump himself during January 6th. And if you had a doubt in your mind about what Trump's objective was on January 6th, this should eliminate it. Donald Trump wanted to see a coup happen. There's no other explanation left. That the only reason why Trump wasn't at the White House is that his own people refused to allow him to go. Very straightforwardly. That if it had have been up to Donald Trump alone, he would have been there. That all of those photos with, like, the Viking guy and all of that would have been, he would have been in the White House with those people. For sure. 100%. And the only reason he wasn't allowed to is because his own aides, including his chauffeur and all of these people, literally, like, got him to get into a limo and told him, yeah, Mr. President, for sure, we're heading to the White House now, you bet. And then drove away and went somewhere else. And basically told him, like, you don't want this. Like, you don't want to be involved in this. And Trump was dead convinced that it was going to work. Trump was dead convinced that it was a coup. Trump was dead convinced that he was going to remain the leader of the country after this coup. Like, he's going to get reelected for sure. And it's not going to be close. I think that's a big thing that people need to understand. It's not going to be close at all. It's gonna be a landslide victory, huge, massive victory for the Republicans. It's not going to be close. And I was talking about this yesterday with this. There was that that Nazi in the chat yesterday, right? Like, get ready for it. It's going to be more common. It's going to be more of that behavior, more of these talking points, right? Those people are feeling more and more empowered, and the populace is empowering them. very, very straightforwardly. Like, the populace, like, all of this, like, it's all well and good to blame, like, a small minority or to blame the powerful or all of this kind of stuff, but, like, huge sections of the American populace are down for it, right? Huge sections of the American populace are down for it. Like, why is the church and state separated? We should be run by Christian principles. Like, all of that shit's coming in big and big and big and big and serious ways. Yeah, protect that woman. Thanks, Amanda. Yeah. I mean, she's already testified, so you can't take that away. But yeah, like, this is basically the end of her political career, essentially. Fascist coup propped up by finance capital. The playbook is always the same. Yep. And, like, it's as transparent as it can get at this point. Like, and what's the response from the populace? We're just sleepwalking through it. Like, it's very simple. Like, I'm desperately scrambling to try to get people to come to this protest August 1st, Bloor and Bedford, 4 p.m., right? Be there or be square. I'm promoting it. I'm getting flyers printed. I'm doing all that kind of stuff, right? Et cetera, et cetera. But where's the energy? Where's the people? Where are they? They're just sleepwalking. They're just sleepwalking right through it. Nobody wants to actually stand up and take to the streets and do anything. And I keep talking to other leftist groups, and I'm deeply, deeply concerned that where they are at is we should have a book club. I'm deeply, deeply concerned that what I am seeing is a bunch of people who are saying, all we got to do is get together, get a book club, and educate people, and then go vote about it. And that's essentially where we're at. And it's like, or, crazy thought, we could accept that these people have addresses, and we could go to their houses. Are you going to be the video? I don't think I understand your statement there, Eric. Sorry. Trump going into a riot, he helped orchestrate a similar to Mussolini's Black Shirts March on Rome. Yeah. And, like, once Biden... No, I'm not going to... Sorry, Eric, I'm just showing people. If you want to see it, here. I'm not playing the video because I think I would be in violation of something. If you'd like to see it. And of course, this comes from David Dole, right? David Dole does good work for, you know, a slightly progressive liberal. Doesn't use his platform to actually galvanize people into the streets, which is what we need to be doing.
And then pointed.
And, yeah, I'm not going to name names on this because I'm still trying to work with these people and I'm still trying to convince them that getting into the streets is the way to go. I will say that Socialist Action shows up to these protests and organizes their own, right? Which I promote in the Discord. So, but it just really does seem like the left is more or less complacent, that the power structure is fine if you have a little book club where you complain about it and, like, write down how upset you are and write a letter, right? They're perfectly fine, right? Talk to the IWW chapters in Toronto. Not a bad idea, bud. Not a bad idea. I don't have much by way of tabs today, guys. Like, I don't have much by way of news today because Capitalism had me for the day, so I wasn't able to dig anything up or find anything. I mean, let's rely on the Discord, why don't we? Yeah, more than 700 flights canceled Sunday. We saw this. This is a report. This is because people are trying to... Delta team continue to safely manage through compounding factors to help our operation this weekend, including higher than planned unscheduled absences. This is in response to Roe, right? Like, people are being grounded, basically. You can't go anywhere. U.S. Supreme Court rejects civil rights claim against border agent. Here's that article that Eric was talking about. Like, it's going to get amazingly worse. Like, amazingly worse. And it's going to happen so fast. It's going to happen way faster than you think. Like quite literally, people are going to wake up one day and go to their normal jobs doing their normal thing, and there will be like Nazi salutes and shit, and people will be like, what the fuck is happening? Because we're sleepwalking into it. Like, no, and the people who are ringing the bells are being roundly ignored. And it is going to be one of those things, and I've experienced this in my life over and over again, so I feel like I'm talking from experience, that after it becomes obvious, the people who have been ringing the bell about it the whole time suddenly will be taken more seriously after the thing has happened, right? So, like, when Donald Trump gets elected the first time, people start turning to me and saying, hey, John, you've been talking about this kind of thing. Let's take you seriously now. And now I'm standing here saying, okay, now it's going to be full-blown, like, you know those concentration camps? They're not concentration camps, John. Those are detention centers. Okay, bud, you know those concentration camps, right? Like, just wait until they start purging those, right? Wait until they finally just start saying, why are we detaining these people? What are we holding them onto for? Let's just get rid of them, right? Like, that's the next step. That's coming. Hey, Mystic, how you doing, bud? How you doing? So, speaking of fascism, Liberal government will allow Emergencies Act inquiry to see cabinet documents. So, the story that's coming out of the Liberal Party is that its evocation of the Emergencies Act was legitimate, that they had reason to believe that they needed to do it, that they had reason to believe that it had to happen, and their narrative now is, we're going to double down on this idea, we're going to show the documents, and we're going to be quote-unquote transparent about it. And of course, we'll see. So what they're going to do, it's pretty straightforward what they will do, is create an inquiry board, right? Or have an inquiry into it, and it'll just be loaded with liberals, right? And so the liberals will take a look at what the liberal government wants them to see and say of their liberals who are in the liberal government, oh, this is all fine, right? So we don't need to continue with it. The Liberal government has waived cabinet confidence over documents relating to its invocation of the Emergencies Act, agreeing to a request from the head of the public inquiry examining the use of the act. Paul Rolno, the head of the Public Order Emergency Commission, requests the cabinet confidence be waived on documents that cabinet used to make decisions to invoke the act in order to provide full transparency on the government's decision. This exceptional step recognizes the fundamental importance of the commissioner's work and how critical these documents are in inquiring to why the government declared a public order emergency. This is only the fourth time in Canada's history a public inquiry will be giving access to cabinet documents. Like, this is actually quite serious, right? Because this is going to be the linchpin that many people are going to use to make their decision. Although it does look like majorities of Canadians are already on side with it and already saying, like, it was completely fine. Granting groups or individuals standing allows them certain privileges. So this does come down to something of a we'll see. You know what, Mystic? I'm going to be straight with you. I'm hungry. I'm angry. I had a frustrating kind of a day. Not a frustrating day, but just kind of like a little annoying. Yeah, Tamara Lynch is back in jail. I see the Rebel is raising money for her. And I mean, liberals and NDP types are like, yeah, fuck them. And like, I am their ideological enemy. If anyone is their ideological enemy, it is me. These people should not be in jail. Like, why is Tamara Lynch in jail? Why is Pat King still in jail? Why are these people in jail? Near as I can tell, what they are being charged with is creating an effective protest. That seems to be what they're being charged with. That they created a protest that was effective, and now they're being punished for it. And the Liberals and NDP are basically just showing their true colors, right? That they're not interested in due process. They're not interested in the right of the citizen. Like, I disagree with Tamara Lynch and Pat King on many things, but they're still citizens. They still have rights. They still have, pre-crime, exactly. They still have the right to protest. They have the right to organize protest. They have the right to do what they did, right? Like, just because you don't like it doesn't matter. Like, straight up. I'm just doing a little advertising. Unlearning Economics has released a new video where he's criticizing Jordan Peterson on the gender pay gap issue. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to criticize Jordan Peterson at this point. Like, Peterson's a clueless fraud. Like, sorry. Like, if Peterson had just stayed like a rah-rah, you can do it, young men kind of a guy, right? If he had just been like, yeah, things are tough for young kids these days, and you know, young men are facing a real uphill battle and a real crisis of meaning, and what are we supposed to do with our lives, and how are we supposed to be in the world, and things are different for them. Things are different for them, and he could have even talked about like the rise of feminism and all this kind of stuff in a non-negative way. He could have literally just said like, you know, women have entered the workplace and they've created they've taken place in a society in a way that's new and a way that's different for young men across the world. And this is confusing. It's confusing for these young men. You know, they don't know how to act and they don't know what to do. And I'm not trying to say anything about the feminists and all of this. You know, God bless them, but we have to acknowledge that it's created issues for young men living in the society. And I think if he had taken that position, I think he would have been perfectly comfortable as like an Oprah-esque kind of voice for incels, right? Like that he would have been the kind of guy that like, yeah, you could have just like, yeah, he's trying to cheerlead for young men, right? Trying to buck them up, right? Clean up your room and you know, try to do better by everybody around you. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting to fight the good fight, but if you want to fight the good fight, you gotta really push on yourself. You can't control what's going on in the world around you, but you can control what you are bringing to the table. You can stand up straight and work out a little bit and clean your room and do these kinds of things. And then once you're done there, you can get into the world and start fighting. Like, it's a perfectly respectable position. Where Peterson has gotten into trouble is in his social commentary, right? He's clueless. Like, he's beyond clueless. Like, he doesn't know anything. He's often just wrong. Like, technically wrong. Like, the thing that raised him to prominence was that he insisted that the liberals were passing a bill that was going to force him to use gender pronouns, or he'd be forced out of the school system or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a patent lie. Like, straightforwardly false. Like, black and white. Like, 1 + 1 = 2. Peterson's saying it's actually the color yellow, right? Like, it's just wrong. And so, and he's often that way, right? He's often that way. And so it's very, and people are starting to get onto it, right? Like, the young men who found him to be very useful are growing up and beginning to look at him with a more skeptical eye and seeing some of the just generally shitty things that he does, right? Like shitting on the plus size model on Twitter, I think was a big turning point for a lot of people, because it's just a genuinely shitty thing to do. Like, Sports Illustrated released like 4 unique. For 1 month, they released 4 unique things. So there was like what's considered like the traditional beauty woman, and then like there was like a black woman who is also of like the traditional beauty, and then there was like an older woman, and then like a plus size model, and they released it with this like thing of like, you know, there's many forms of beauty, and Peterson turns it into this like, this is the cultural Marxist. You can't jam this and tell me. And we're all just sitting there being like, bro, like, it's a plus size model. Like, thank you for letting us know what your what you're attracted to as a person, but it's not, nobody's like inflicting you with anything, right? Like nobody's telling you that you've gotta, act in a different kind of a way. He seems to genuinely believe that by allowing different groups into the conversation that somehow is a problem, and the reason why he thinks that way is because at the end of the day he thinks the only people who should be talking are white men. That's it. That's the only explanation for how he acts. There's no other explanation, right? Like, what's the problem with allowing the feminists in? What's the problem with allowing people of color in? What's the problem with all this kind of stuff? Because it means that not only white men are talking. That's the real problem, right? And it's just classic conservatism bullshit. Like, that's all. And the reason why people let him get away with it is because instead of like just overtly stating it, he takes 15 pages of writing to say something like that. And you've got to like sift it out and sniff it through, right? But once you do, it's pretty clear. Like, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Jordan Peterson, what about the young man? A young man, I want mental health care. Jordan Peterson, shut up! Man up! Pray! Clean your room! Yeah. Question, to what ends was their protest? What was it for, and for whom? I'm deeply bothered by the notion that fascist politicking means that our revolution must leave political power for fascists to play with. Fascists shouldn't have the right to be a fascist. I mean, what was the protest about? It was about mandates. It was about vaccine mandates. Near as I can tell, it was completely successful, right? That the government backed down from a lot of its mandating. A lot of stuff got backed down by the government, and something that nobody actually talks about, but I think about a lot in regards to vaccine mandates, in regards to this sort of stuff. There was a full-blown revolution in Kazakhstan, like a full-scale. The president and prime minister of Kazakhstan, the military leadership of Kazakhstan, all of them got chased out of the country. They all resigned. It was a complete revolution from the ground up. We've got footage of people in the streets literally overwhelming the police forces, literally overwhelming the parliament buildings, completely taking it over. It was a huge news story for a couple of seconds, right, before we all ignored it, all this kind of stuff. And you ask the people in the streets, what was this about, right? And of course, what the international narrative was, oh, high gas prices, high this, high that, right? You talk to people in the streets, and they said, no, it was about the vaccine mandates. That's what it was about. And people do not want to have to be given a card that their government says, papers, please, so that they have to go into an institution, right? They're not interested in that. Seems like government overreach, right? Which, incidentally, our government was attempting to implement. And now they're not. And why? Because a bunch of truckers showed up at Ottawa, made it pretty clear that they were fomenting the same kind of idea. Right? And what happened in Kazakhstan, I think, really reverberated throughout the political system. That a lot of politicians and a lot of people who were planning on implementing the kind of tracking devices, frankly, that they were planning to enforce on the populace, saw pretty clearly what that was going to do in a place like Kazakhstan, and so they backed off on it. And then once they started to see, and while the convoy was the most like internationally recognized, there were similar movements happening throughout Europe. There were similar things happening all over the place. It's just the trucker convoy was the most obnoxious and so got the most attention, right? And what did they do? They backed off. So all of those vaccine mandates, all of that kind of stuff, it all just quietly went away. And if you ask me, these truckers were 100% successful in what they wanted to do. which was to get the government to back off on that. Did they get the coup they wanted? No, clearly. But they definitely got the government to step down and to step back on their obvious and overt plans to create a kind of what they were calling a vaccine passport. Which at first I was like, isn't this just like inoculation records? Like, isn't that what that is? It's like, no, it's a tracking device. That's what it is, right? A government issued tracking device. So I think that what happened in Kazakhstan was a big shift, and then the trucker convoy was another big shift, where the political apparatus, our oligarch overlords, realized, okay, yeah, we can't get away with this. If we attempt to do this, we will be facing a genuine overthrow. And so they stopped. That's my more or less my perspective on this. And now what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, yeah, we were right to put in the Emergencies Act, right? Like we did the Emergencies Act and we did so basically they're admitting how weak they are. They're admitting to our faces how easy it actually would be to overthrow the government, right? They're admitting straightforwardly how simple it would be to actually achieve, because that's all it took for them to evoke the nuclear bomb of policy decisions, right? It doesn't actually get bigger, right? They don't have anything else. All it takes is 500 truckers. That's it. That's all it takes. That's how weak they are. So when I say surround the halls of power, and when I say how effective it would actually be, it would be. It'd be incredibly effective, right? Because we see how weak they are in the first place. At least he's trying to figure things out. He's just a little too crazy to be really in such a public spot. I don't think he is trying to figure things out. I used to think that of him too, that he was trying to figure things out. But more and more, like, usually if somebody's actually trying to figure things out, you'll see like a change in their perspective or a change in the position. Especially when you talk about things that you don't know anything about. But if anything, Peterson has just doubled down on stuff, right? Like him leaving the University of Toronto in a huff and publishing the paper that he did in the National Post, right? Just doubling down on it, essentially revealing pretty clearly that his position is that whites should have all the power, like, and that people who that people of color and gays and all this kind of stuff, they need to prove themselves to the white power structure, right? Through this system of meritocracy that doesn't exist. But I just think he's a pretty straightforward racist and a pretty straightforward white supremacist at this point. Like I don't think you need to and a total hypocrite, like a complete and total hypocrite. The guy holds onto a book that tells him, like, that he says is the foundation of all truth. He has said of the Bible that it is the foundation of all truth, right? And it tells him, explicitly commands him to give money to the poor, right? And not only does he not do that, except in the small tokenism sort of ways, but he also argues against such a concept, right? Like, the guy is a complete and total fraud. Like, total fraud. There is no intellectual basis for him to be taken seriously anywhere at all. And yet we still talk about him. The older woman was Elon Musk's mom? What? Speaking of white men on the internet saying offensive things, Elon Musk hasn't tweeted since the fallout from his child. I guess it hurts when you have your heart turn out. Yeah. Like, on a personal level, that's pretty tough, you know? Like, anything I've read about Elon Musk is that he's, like, a pretty hard guy, right? Like, the stuff you hear from his ex-wives, right? The stuff you hear from his kids, right? Like, it all just sort of continues to reinforce my opinion of him. Like, the more you see of the painting that is his life, the more you see of the portrait of the man Elon Musk, the more you really see the son of a slaver, right? That he's like, his father clearly never loved him, right? Or if he did, it was in that very like distant, far away. Like, it's really easy to believe that Elon Musk's dad was like the character in There Will Be Blood. I forget his name, but Daniel Day-Lewis plays this character, right? Like this just like hard-nosed, exploitive capitalist who does not know how to express his emotions and love towards his own son, and in fact does many things in order to alienate himself from his son. It's very easy for me to believe that Elon Musk was treated that way by that kind of a figure. And like, it is ultimately, in terms of finances, the primary beneficiary of slave minds, right? Like, that's what they are. But emotionally, and you just listen to what his former wives say. You listen to what his kids are saying, right? You listen to what Grimes has to say. You listen to all this kind of stuff, and you just end up with this like emotionally hollow, very distant person who's doing everything he can to earn the love of a father who is long dead, and who's doing everything he can to prove something to himself or to the world at large. Like, he desperately needs the world to love him. Like, he desperately needs it. He spends billions of dollars. Like, this whole thing with Twitter is literally him just trying to convince anybody that he is worthy of love, worthy of adulation, worthy of praise, right? Like, truly, I believe that Elon Musk only wanted his dad, not even to say that I love you. He really just wanted his dad to say that he's proud of him. And he's taking his wealth and his prestige and his position and his money, and he's funneling it into this pursuit of getting that praise and that adulation and all of that from the populace, because he never got it from his own family. Like, Musk, in my view, is a very sad sort of figure, right? A very sad, like, sympathetic. Like, I'm actually quite sympathetic of him on a kind of man-to-man sort of a level. He would be much happier if he took the $44 billion he's spending on Twitter and gave it to people. Like, I straight up, like, how do I know that billionaires have, like, severe psychosis and severe mental issues? What's the one thing that has convinced me more than anything is that these guys are not walking around just throwing I'd have a bushel of I'd have $1,000, a wad of bills, right? I'd have a wad of bills at $1,000, right? I'd have them all be like ones or fives, something to give it like a heft, right? And I'd just be walking down the street, tossing it at people. I'd walk up to people, be like, here you go. Walk up to people and let them realize what is happening, right? Let them let them come to the understanding of what's happening. If somebody came up to me with a weapon and said, give me the basket, I'd hand the basket over, and then I'd turn to my armored truck of guys, right? And I'd just get another basket and be like, okay, bye, right? The fact that they're not doing that tells you very clearly that these guys are suffering from a significant trauma, psychosis, whatever you want to put onto it. And you're probably right. Like, if I had even $1 billion, I'd just be like, are you kidding me? Why would you do anything else? Why would you do anything else? It's going to make the people around you better. It's going to make you better. It's going to make everything better. The world is going to be a significantly better place if all you did was take your wealth and walk around and throw it at people, right? You yourself, and forget about like the emotional part about it. Forget about forget about the happiness. Forget about any of that, right? Like from a hard-nosed, straight-up economics, like capitalist perspective, you're going to create an economic boom doing it. You have $1 billion, bro. Like people like Elon Musk have a higher GDP than like most countries. Like these guys should be walking around throwing their money around. They would create an economic boom just doing it, but they won't because they're all suffering from this just incredible psychosis, right? And they're just detached psychopaths who genuinely think that they're here exclusively to put forward some kind of like insane legacy. Like Elon Musk with this like journey to Mars shit. Like, get real, dude. Like, get fucking real. It's incredible to me. But that's where it is. And what happened with his kid? For those of you who don't know, his kid is changing her name so she doesn't have the name Musk anymore. Right? It's brutal. Just absolutely brutal. Kind of thing that would absolutely tear your heart out as a parent. Because no parent wants their kid to spurn them like that. No parent wants that. Right? But like, the truth is that Elon Musk cares more about his own vision for himself. And what it tells you is that he doesn't give a fuck about these kids. Not really. Or if he does give a fuck about them, he has no idea how to show it. He has no idea what to do. When like, it is actually as simple as like show up in their lives, right? If they need something from you, give it to them. And you got this guy who has more wealth than literally anyone else on the planet, and his kids are literally spurning him. Like, money can't buy some shit, man. Like, money can't buy some shit, and more than likely, it's what's getting in the way. Peterson seems to have a pseudo-intellectual Norman Rockwell vision for society. Yeah, like, I mean, well, when you dig into it, it's essentially the narrative that comes out of the Christian churches, right? That, like, the man is the head of the household, right? He's the provider. The woman serves the man, right? They have their 3.5 kids or whatever, right? They live in their picket fence reality. Like, but Peterson doesn't really actually have like a realistic view of society. His analysis of how society works is deeply flawed, right? And it really does start with this idea that there is such a thing as a meritocracy. Like, if you, the moment he said that out loud, I was like, oh, this guy's a fraud. Like, even if he believes it, it doesn't matter, right? He's still a fraud. There's no such thing as a meritocracy. What the fuck are you talking about? The wealthiest man in this country literally inherited... He's a baron, for Christ's sake. Elon Musk inherited his wealth. Like, the idea that these billionaires are somehow ascending some kind of meritocracy is so easy to falsify, it's childish that it needs to be done. Especially for somebody who's like a PhD teaching at like the University of Toronto. Like, if Peterson said in front of me that there's a meritocracy, I'd laugh in his face and be like, the literal richest guy is a fucking baron, dude. Like, third generation billionaire inheritor. What the fuck are you actually talking about? You clueless, deluded old man. Like, it's not even a point. Right? That's the thing that's so embarrassing about Peterson, is that it's not even like a point that should be made. It's so hysterically wrong and so easy to falsify. And what's actually embarrassing is not that Peterson believes it, although that is extremely embarrassing. It's that no one in the media landscape has stood up and been like, excuse me? That sounds hysterically childish. That's the first thing that literally he should have, like, the microphone should have been, he should have said it, and the guy should have been like, but what about the fact that the richest people in the country are billionaire inheritors? And the fact that that's not what happened tells you how childish a society we actually are. Like, It's so falsifiable. It's instantly. It'd be like saying like 2 + 2 equals jars. Like that. It's just laughable on the face of it, and like discredits anybody who says that shit is just like, oh, we got to stop paying attention to this guy. But instead of that, we spread a shit around. Yeah, when you point out the racism he just that he exerts, conservatives just laugh at you. Yeah, of course, because they agree with him, right? Why would racists disagree with him? A class analysis is necessary to decipher who and what the trucker protest was really all about. I mean, we should have a trucker, like, I don't know. They were pretty upfront about what it was about. Like, they were against vaccine mandates. Like, that was pretty strong in what they were saying. And like, the guys that were involving themselves with this kind of stuff, like, they're the good old boys of the society, man. Like, they're the guys that want to truck around. When they say freedom, what they're actually like, they themselves do not have a wider agenda, and that's what frustrates leftists, because people want them to have had a wider agenda. They don't. Like, really, they don't. Like, their agenda is, I want to be in my truck and I want to truck around Canada, and if you tell me I can't do something, get fucked. Trudeau gave me one rule: fuck Trudeau. Right? It really is that straightforward. And it's tough for leftists to accept that, because it's so reductive that you have to believe that it can't be that reductive. Like, it can't be like that, right? It's got to be something bigger. It's got to be something wider. It's got to be something, all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, I know these guys. I grew up around these guys. I was raised by these guys. It's as simple as that. Trudeau wanted to make me follow a rule. No. Fuck Trudeau, protest. Right? It is that straightforward. And like, the whole idea of like, we're going to overthrow the government and coup and all that kind of shit, right? All of that energy comes with it. But like, they themselves do not have a class analysis. Like, they themselves do not have a wider analysis. Like, they don't know anything, right? Like, they don't. So like, it really is just like, oh, that's what it is. How could it be the case? Because it is. I think I remember the yellow vest also returned briefly. Yeah, the yellow vests are always around. Why is the world so crazy? Now, I mean, it was always crazy, but I don't remember it being this crazy in 2019, because the society is splitting in two, very, very straightforwardly, right? Like, from a raw economics perspective, the world is splitting in two. That the wealthy, the billionaire class, and the people who work for them are siphoning up more and more of the wealth that they can. It's a policy of extraction at this point and abandonment, right? So, whereas it used to be that there was sort of this semblance of an idea, that there was sort of a gradient line or any of this kind of stuff, that's gone. Now it's poverty, spike wealth. So you have a society split in two, with one group of people being on the inside of the gated community and being insulated from the ravages of poverty, and then the vast majority of the populace being abandoned. Which is going to get extremely, like, much, much worse. Much, much worse. And the craziest part about it is that many people who are on the inside of the wealth still seem to think that there is such a thing as a moderate. Still seem to think that there is such a thing as a moderate position to be taken. Because they don't seem to understand that the society is tearing itself in two. And many of them likely won't understand until something very serious happens to them personally. We ain't going to win? Of course we're going to win. Of course we're going to win. So, did current president of Kazakhstan lead the revolution? We're getting to the end of my knowledge on it, Major. I honestly haven't keyed into it that long. Because, just like everybody else, I moved on. had that been an actual working class protest in Ottawa, the cops would have been cracking skulls in 48 hours. There would be no bouncy castles. The kid's glove they were treated with was telling, yeah. Like, it was fundamentally like a conversation that was happening amongst the ownership class, right? No, you're not wrong on that. The Bible explicitly states that we should forgive people with debt without exception, of course. How much Freud do you read? I've read a bit of Freud, actually. I mean, I liked Freud. I think Freud was touching on some really interesting stuff. His stuff on dreams was really interesting, I thought. And what I liked about Sigmund Freud was that he seemed to be the first guy within any academic field to actually ask a pretty basic question about dreams, which is what? What are these? What are dreams? Like, why do we have them? Like, why this imagery? Why these symbols? Why any of this kind of stuff? Which I think that's an interesting question and something worth diving into. I also liked his perspective and the perspective of Future, like Jung and all these guys, that dreams are your own subconscious telling you something about yourself, and that they can be interpreted, and that there is a method of interpretation. All that kind of stuff I really like about those guys. I have concerns about psychiatrics and that kind of field generally. Like, how often is our innate rebellion against capital being interpreted as a mental illness, right? Like, I think that happens more often than we like to believe. That, like, oh, you've got a kid in a classroom sitting behind a desk for 8 hours a day, and he's getting fussy and he doesn't know what to do with his energy and all that kind of stuff. Must be a mental illness. Jack him with Ritalin, right? Probably, like, yeah, like, he's not responding well because people shouldn't live this way. Like, huge segments of the population, like, we're still fucking monkeys. Like, we still are loaded with this monkey shit, right? And that's not going to go away. And the idea that we can take any kid anywhere ever and just jam him behind a desk and say this is fine, like, probably not. And it's probably not a mental illness, right? It's probably just an innate normal reaction to the reality that, like, this is shitty. Like, what a shitty thing to do to a kid, right? To just take him out of the wilderness and jam him behind a desk and say this is normal, right? So what do? We jam him full of Ritalin. That's the solution. Well done, we did it. Wish everyone was equally rich and happy. Multimillionaires and billionaires and multi-billionaires shouldn't exist. Greed has poisoned the human soul. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Gordon Fiala, I don't know if I've ever seen you here before. Good to see you. Hopefully you're here to discourse. Can you play the video I just posted on Discord? I don't know, can I? Can I play the video? We got some racism of anime characters. Yeah, there's a ton of that in anime, for sure. Oh yeah, the Monopoly social experiment. Can I play this? Yeah, let's see what we can do. It's only 4 minutes. Sorry, guys. I'm still messing around with all kinds of stuff back here, and I don't know what's going on. Sorry, Adam. Oh my god. This is basically a video, and if you want to watch this video, it's a good video. It's a video that's about, like, these are the social experiments that they did to show what wealth does to people, right? And I think the most telling thing, which they're going to get into, or they had gotten into, is that the wealthy people in the conversation don't understand that their behavior has changed, or that the world that the way that they're acting is different because of their wealth. That's the quote-unquote privilege, right, that they experience. Reactionaries want to use their power, yet those opposed to them want to evaporate power, which does not dispower the reactionaries with a will to power. Yeah, it's a real stretch coming to conclusion like that from a known game such as Monopoly. Of course, people are going to be greedy to win the game. It doesn't correlate to real world for normals. I mean, except every single time they run these kinds of experiments, the same thing happens, right? Like, if something is predictable, right? Like, if you can predict the outcome, and if you can show Like, you create a hypothesis, you run the experiment, and if the same thing keeps happening over and over and over again, you have to acknowledge it, right? Like, you've got to acknowledge that that's what's going on. And if you can predict the outcome of something, right? That's what it is. Every time we run these experiments, and in this case it's Monopoly, but they've done these sorts of experiments with other things, and other games, and other examples, right? And the common variable is always someone has more wealth than someone else, right? And if you say the person with the more wealth is going to begin to exhibit these behaviors, and then they do, well, you've got to acknowledge that that's what's going on, right? People change their behavior, and their behavior changes. And the most sinister aspect of this is that the rich people in these experiments will insist that the reason why they end up winning the game is because of their skill, because of their meritocracy, right? Completely ignoring the fact that they got more money, they got all these advantages, they got all this kind of stuff. They'll always insist over and over and over again that, oh no, it was my own skills and my own ability. I made good deals and I did this kind of stuff. Whereas, so they'll completely downplay the structural benefits that they had in order to pretend as though the thing that really won them the game was their own abilities, right? Which is classic. How are the players rich or poor? Like, do they give their annual income before being part of the experiment? No, like, in the experiment space, you just, like, one person gets more money than the other, right? Like, literally. Like, one person starts with $500 and the other person starts with $2,000, right? So one's rich and one's poor. Like, they get more money in the game to begin with, and then the wealthy player also gets other ancillary benefits. Like, every time they pass go, they get $200, whereas the poor player gets $100, right? So there's just, like, structural wealth built in to the game. And, like, anytime these studies are done, it's the same outcome. Like, if it wasn't the case, there would be different outcomes, right? You would expect to see differences and different outcomes. But anytime the experiment is run, you get the same outcome, right? And anytime I've seen it, right? Like, the University of California did studies on this. Berkeley did studies on this, right? Like, anytime the study is run, anytime the experiment is run, the same thing happens, which is that the people who are given the structural benefits act and behave in different ways, and then insist that their victory was because of their own innate skills, right? While downplaying, like, the structural, and even those who admit that they had structural benefits still want it known, and still want it to be understood by everybody that their skill was the most important attribute. How come the poor people are always the ones who tend to be more generous? I see those kinds of experiments too. Yeah. Like, it's to me, I think that if you're living in a position of poverty, you want to make sure that the worst aspects of poverty are not felt by those who are around you, because you know what it is, right? Like, so if you have experienced what hunger actually is, and if you've experienced what, like, actual poverty actually is, and you're in a position where you're a bit stable, right? You're not experiencing the worst of it, and you're seeing somebody who might be, then you're going to do what you can to alleviate it and make sure it doesn't happen, because you know what it is, right? Like, that's something that I talk about a lot when I start talking about places like India or China, right? That people will see the conditions of what's going on, especially in China, right? And they'll judge those conditions, right? And I'll be like, dude, like 50 years ago, this place was like a dust bowl. Like, what Westerners especially just do not have an honest perspective on what poverty actually is, on what hunger actually is, right? This is why I actually think that like fasting is important. This is why I actually think that like experiencing hunger is important. That like especially as you ascend in terms of wealth, right? Like once you get to a certain wealth point, it's literally impossible for you to go hungry. Like maybe you can get into a position in your life where you're getting that hangry feeling, right? Maybe you can get that kind of thing. That's not what we're talking about. Like literally don't eat for 2 days. Don't eat for 2 days. And then accept that there are people in the world who are going through that kind of stuff and they're not choosing it. That's their life. That's how it is. Right? And yeah, North America has never been ravaged by war in living memory. Yeah, the most major conflagration that occurred, and it's no longer even in living memory, right? World War II didn't come to the continent, right? Like this has created a kind of detached mindset where we can sort of experience the glorification of war because we're untouched by it, right? We can actually believe in the idea that the like video gamification of war is what war actually is, right? We it's easy for us to say things like the overthrow of Iraq was necessary because Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, right? And so the ends justify the means. We can do these things and use war as a tool to spread liberal democracy and all this because we have no fucking idea what we're talking about. We don't know what war is. We have no concept of the realities of war, just like we have no concept of what the reality of poverty is. And if you're on the side of wealth and you literally can just go get a meal anytime you want and you don't need to worry about it. You don't even worry about what's in your pay, like people bring you food. Like if that's the position that you're in, then you get detached from it and you just don't understand what it is to live in a world where food is scarce or you might be hungry, right? It doesn't enter your mind space at all. And if that's the way you're living, then it's you genuinely don't know what you're talking about when it comes to dealing with the people who are poor in your country, which is why they say the stupidest, most childish shit you've ever heard in your life, right? That the advice they give is just as babyish as it could possibly be because they don't actually live in the same reality. I took a course in University Health and Society with an assignment where we had to live off $50 a week for food. We had to document what it was like, what we ate, had to provide receipts to prove you actually did the assignment. It was a good learning experience, I think, for people who haven't been in food insecure before. Yeah. Like, in many ways, the secularization of the society, like we rightly turned away from religious institutions and their authority and all of that. But what also went with it was a genuine exploration of the spiritual self. We simply don't do things that we should to remind ourselves of what it is to be in the world, right? Food insecurity is a nice way of saying famine, yeah. Lots of instant noodles, I guess. No, rice and chickpeas go a long way. That's right. Rice and chickpeas do go a long way. Lentils. I've lived under $50 a week for food, I'm sure, but some weeks are $200, some are zero. Not having to do it specifically week by week is not efficient. Having to do it specifically week by week is not efficient. Yeah, but like the lentils are good too, yeah. I'll make a nice lentil dish. What if you hate vegetables? Tough. Tough. What if you hate vegetables? You're just gonna die then, Watson. Like, what are you eating, bud? You're just gonna die, bud. That's as simple as that. Especially, like, meat prices are about to go crazy, bud. Like, meat prices are about to go absolutely bonkers. Like, I've been talking to farmers. Like, I'm from Manitoba, right? I talk to farmers. I've been talking to farmers that are like, yep, like, the price of gas, the price of feed, the price of fertilizer, price of peat, all of that's going to trickle into the meat market. You're going to see a huge increase. Huge increase. Like, people are going to be gobsmacked at how high the price of meat is going to go. It's not going to be small. It's not going to be a little kind of increase. It's going to be like 4 or 5 times the amount that you're used to. It's going to be a big jump. There's stray cats in the neighborhood. See a few go missing. Yeah. Oh no, people survive famines. Like, people are going to survive, but just like, I don't have enough lentils. I need to learn to love the lentil. The benefit of lentils and chickpeas is that they absorb the flavor of any spicing you put in them, right? So if you're using a lot of like the thyme and the rosemary, or like the parsley, sage, and all that kind of stuff, it's gonna absorb that a lot. Conversely, if you're using them for curries and things like this, it's going to absorb that a lot. Like, lentils themselves don't really have like a flavor profile that is very prominent. What they're really good for, though, is absorbing the flavor of the spicing that you give them. So that's what lentils are really good for. Yeah, Bad Empanada released a video the other day where he was mocking neoliberals, with the neoliberals saying Cuban housing was in poor condition, even though there is no homeless in Cuba. Considering the number of homeless people in the state, would be the second largest population by state population. Like, I mean, yeah, homelessness is one no picket fence. Like, you can tell that the like, they'll go over to Russia and be like, look at the apartment buildings complexes that they have here. This Soviet structure is so embarrassing. What could be worse? And the response is homelessness, obviously. Like, if you have no idea what homelessness is, or if you have no idea like what poverty actually is, if you have no idea what hunger is, then you can believe what you want about it. Right? You can say these childish things like, oh, these people should just go get jobs. It's like, okay, bud, like, where are they going to get a shower, right? Where are they going to get any of this kind of stuff from? Like, they don't have any stability in their life, and when they try to get any stability, we send cops at them and beat them up. Like, what are you actually talking about? It's an embarrassing position, but it's the popular one. I'm on a big curry kick recently. Works for me. Stir fry, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, figuring out dal, yeah. I haven't gone too deep with dal. Hey, the next door neighbor, Yankee Land, has both ugly infrastructure and homelessness. Exactly. Yeah, the whole concept of having a lawn, the staple of American exceptionalism, is absurd. Yeah. People are going to figure it out pretty quick, dude. Like, it's... Like, the famines, I've been saying it all along, right? The famines are going to be the worst part. There's going to be a huge famine that sweeps through Canada, the United States, right? Like, there's already, like, upwards of 70% of Canadians are saying that they're struggling with grocery bills, right? Like, 50 to 70%, depending on the poll that you want to cite, are already saying. And prices are only going to go up from here, right? Prices are only going up. Like, they're not going down. There's no mechanism by which they're under control or they've been lowered or any of that kind of stuff. None of that's happened, right? And our political class is so stupid and ineffectual and bought that they're not doing anything. So there's going to be a big famine that sweeps through in big and serious ways. That's like the end game. Isolated working on this little piece of land for cosmetic reason. Yeah. Lawns are abominations. Yeah, we should be ripping them up. Like, we should be ripping them up and we should be gardening. Like, all of this land should be gardens. All of it. The idea that we're not, it just tells you about the cluelessness of our society and what we're facing. right? It's mostly the grass, other useless weeds that bug me. At least dandelions are amazing plants. They should be cherished, not reviled. Well, if you're a beekeeper, I did a season of beekeeping. I keep trying to find a way to get a hive in the city, but of course, there's always some Karen that's like, "Oh, I don't want a hive near there. A bee might come and sting me." That's what happens 100% of the time. Because when you're detached from reality and you don't actually live in the world or know where food comes from, right? Everything is terrifying to you, and dandelions are absolutely crucial for bees. Dandelions are the first food source for bees in the season. When dandelions pop up, that's what the bees go to first, and that's really what starts them up in the season. The lawn can be used to grow vegetables, save money on food, not only gardening, but letting the native flora flourish. Yeah. No lawns, food growing everywhere. The Socialist Democratic Party of Germany armed the Freikorps in 1919. Good to know, Mock. Thanks, bud. Sorry about today, guys. I showed up late. I've got very little in terms of, stuff. You guys are great, though. I'm loving the chat. Considering I had to get back on welfare because of COVID, I have such a huge struggle with how little money I'm getting. Yeah. You can eat young dandelion leaves, make wine, medicinal uses. Fantastic. The fact that we're not just doing it, that's the most blisteringly annoying part. We're not even trying. What are we doing? We're banning straws. We're not doing anything. It's just childish what we're doing. But hey, the society just wants to abandon the disabled to the poor. Yeah. How the hell am I supposed to get a job when my body is preventing me to get one? Yeah. Dandelions are basically like arugula. Fantastic. So, JR, my prescription is very, very heavy, very, very specific. I have tried to order, I've tried to do it this way one time, and never, ever again. I'll do it for, fashion. I'll do it so, one day I can have, a pair of glasses that look a bit different. But, if I don't get a pair of glasses that are properly set up, that are done right, that are doing any of that kind of stuff, it causes me significant problems. So it's very kind of you to be concerned and to give a tip like that, but the reality is if I don't spend the money, then it's eye ache, headaches, I get very tired, right? My eyes are working really overtime. So that's where I'm at. I'm literally one step away from being legally blind without my glasses. Literally, if my eyes got worse by even a little tiny bit. So it's so when it comes to replacing my glasses, and the new pair is coming. It's coming. Hopefully, it'll be here by this week. But if I don't actually spend the money and actually get it done, it's a significant problem for me. I think most people don't really understand the significance of it, because I think it's very rare for me to meet somebody who has a prescription that's as bad as mine. So I'm happy that stuff exists. Absolutely, please go use it. All of that, but it's not the boat that I'm in. Dandelion leaves are not bad. Ernest Rom, leader of SA, Philip Fitz. Mox, what are you talking about here, bud? You're talking about we're arming the Social Democrats Party of Germany armed the Freikorps. What are we talking about here, bud? I had a babysitter that was legally blind, made us cabbage sandwiches and put a toy knife in the dishwasher. That melted. Yeah, like I'm pretty confident that when I get older, like unless something significant happens to me, like I get a surgery or something, I'll be struggling with blindness. I'm sure of it. He's talking about the Free Corps that overthrew the Spartacus Revolution in 1918 and 19. Yeah, but like why? Like I don't. Why are we talking about this? No, I understand. I understand. Like it's. Yeah. I'm so glad you guys are here, man. This is a weird one. This is a weird one. I feel like I don't have much to present today. We should talk about something weird today. What do you guys want to talk about? Let's talk about something weird. Who's watching something? Who's watching good stuff today? Who's watching, hold on. Over more than 10 years, a Chinese woman wrote several million words of fake Russian history, creating 206 articles and contributing to hundreds more on Chinese Wikipedia. She imagined richly detailed war stories and economic histories and wove them into real events in language boring enough to fit seamlessly into the encyclopedia. Some netizens are calling him China's Borges. That's hilarious, dude. She spent a decade writing fake Russian history. Wikipedia just noticed. Uh-oh. Anemone wants to do aliens. Aliens. Do we have anything new to talk about with aliens? Has there been anything... I hear that Louisiana is using recycled glass to remake their beaches. All right. I don't know why. Like, Louisiana's underwater already, dude. Like, get out of Louisiana. Do not be here. Why would anyone be here at this point? Get the hell out of New Orleans. I mean, I respect that people are living here and they probably can't get out of it. But just, like, water... If the water level goes up, like, two inches, it's underwater. Like, it's a total disaster. It's already happened. Like... Yeah. Ooh, you got the corona, eh? -5, but the kind of bills, yeah. Yeah, but these kind of bills are the costs that politicians pretend don't exist, yeah. Well, when you're a detached, wealthy person in the pocket of an oligarch, right? You literally don't know what's going on, right? That's the thing that I'm really concluding with these NDP types, dude. Like, I keep having conversations with NDP types, and it's become really, really obvious that these people are fucking clueless. Like, they really don't know what's happening. Like, they're either like on purpose this detached from what's going on, or they really are just completely unaware. Like, these guys are walking around still saying, we don't want to alienate moderates. Like, that's the end of your rational thinking, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you're no longer a credible, rational thinker if you're still walking around pretending like there's moderates. Like, who are these moderates? What the fuck are you talking about? And then when they point out who the moderates are, they're literally pointing at, like, the oligarchs and their surrogates. And you're like, oh, no wonder you're so fucking stupid and clueless. You literally think that the wealthy side of the conversation, right, are somehow moderates as they actively abandon and extract as much value as they can from their victims. Like, no wonder. Like, and the way these NDP types talk is embarrassing. Like, they're talking as if they didn't just experience the most embarrassing loss in the party's history, right? Not only did the NDP lose to the worst premier in the history of the nation, they also lost power. They lost seats. Like, they got completely fucking shellacked by a total fucking clown show loser. And these guys are walking around pretending like they're still hot shit and they've got something interesting to say. Like, it's complete embarrassment. Which is why I say we got to abandon this party. Like the NDP, they're completely capitulated. Like they're not going to go, what went wrong? Let's take a look and actually try to understand things. They're just going to double down on their incompetence and their childishness. That's what they're going to do. That the point of the NDP at this stage in the game is to just get as much energy away from the oligarch class as they can. Just to get as much energy as they can away from the idea that we should overthrow these losers, right? Like, that's the reason they exist. Lots of poor people in Louisiana. That's the truth, isn't it? Here's something I like doing. Taking a Marx or Lenin quote and attributing them to Milton Friedman or Ronald Reagan on conservative Facebook pages and keeping up the likes. Yeah. Idiots. Yeah. Well, they are idiots, right? Like, what's funny, man, is like most conservatives, like when they talk, they sound like communists to me. Like when they talk about the problems of capital and what are the problems of the society, I'm like, yeah, you guys sound like communists. And then when you start saying, okay, so what's the solution? Their solution is always just do what we're doing, but harder. It's like, okay. So, so it's idiocy by its very definition. Well, YouTube's messing with us in the chat. YouTube's messing with the chats. Yeah, if you post swears and there's certain language, right? Well, especially right now, guys. Like I think that a big reason why my channel got a strike and that strike got taken down is because I think that they, like, with the Roe v. Wade decision, I think that a lot of these sites and a lot of this stuff are very concerned about what's happening. Like, this is a radicalizing moment, right? Like the Roe v. Wade decision, and I don't actually think we understand as a people exactly how radicalizing it is. Certainly the Republicans don't. Like certainly the Republicans and the people in power don't understand exactly how radicalizing this is. That like they have actually discredited themselves. And I don't think they quite understand the degree to which they have discredited themselves, and that the citizens of the nation understand that the federal system of governance is no longer a credible institution. Like that's and because like, as long as the people in power don't do anything to actively alienate the citizenry, you can get away with a lot, right? Most people are just trying to live their lives, right? And most people are trying to get by and do stuff and kind of wish their government would do more, but are like, yeah, but what are you going to do? And what can you understand? But when that institution begins to assert itself in such an overt, overwhelmingly negative way, like the stripping away of Roe v. Wade is barbarous. Like women will die over it. There's no other way to describe it, right? Like, and if you're in support of it, it's 'cause you're a barbarian and a child, right? Like your ethos for doing it, like you're murdering babies, says your religious perspective. Well, the entire point of the Constitution is to protect us from your religious ideology, right? So now we've got a Christian theocracy in place that is pushing forward ideals based on their religious principles and discrediting the institutions in order to do it. I think it's desperately radicalizing for the people of America, certainly. Like, and I don't really like. I wouldn't want to be paying taxes to the federal government if I was living in America. Why? For what purpose? Actually, John, they sound a lot like Stracherites we dealt with last night. Who's they in that statement, mate? Sorry. I don't see any light on the horizon for a party in Canada today, including the Communist Party. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, like, this is why you don't give billions of dollars to psychopaths, right? Because they're going to do things. And the things they're going to do are going to be to maintain their own power. And we don't really respect how much $1 billion actually is, right? You can do a lot of damage with $1 billion. They've also been giving me these messages about the comments I've been leaving. Apparently it's bad to call Paul Joseph Watson the C word. But what I'm trying to get at is that this radicalization has really, I can tell, like, a lot of places have, if they had like so the dial that they've got for how sensitive the algorithm is definitely cranked up. Definitely. Like, it would be ridiculous to assert anything else, because they know what's happening. They know that people are calling for violence. They know that people are calling for stuff. Like, everybody is saying things like, we know where these people live, right? Everybody is saying that. And it really is, like, very believable to me that very serious things are going to happen because of this. Like, if I was a young man who had a wife or a girlfriend, let's say, who was pregnant, planned or otherwise, and there was a complication in the pregnancy, and the doctor wouldn't perform an abortion because it was illegal in the state to do so, and then my girlfriend or wife died over it, it's extremely radicalizing. Extremely radicalizing. What about the father and the mother of that young woman who pointlessly died for no reason? What about her friends? What about her coworkers? What about the people around her? And these events are inevitable. They're going to happen for sure. It's 100%, right? Like, having your loved ones die for no reason because of a law that was put in place by an illegitimate institution is extremely radicalizing. And you're talking about a country that's awash in weapons. You're talking about a country that is actively abandoning its own citizens to oligarchs. You're talking about a society that is doing everything it can to ramp up the misery of its own population, and now like, regular citizens are going to watch their loved ones die in like a Handmaid's Tale kind of twist of perversion. Like, shit's gonna happen. Like, shit's gonna happen. It's inevitable. And like, anybody can see it. You don't need to have like a big strong analysis. You don't need to like have like 30 screens constantly playing and be like, I need an array to understand. My daughter died because her doctor couldn't give her an abortion during complications in pregnancy. Doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Like, serious things are going to happen. The recent U.S. Supreme Court decision has more to do with taking away democratic rights than the actual rationale itself. I mean, yeah, like, if they can take away this, they can take away anything, and they will. The same rationale that was used to get rid of Roe v. Wade could be used to get rid of gay marriage, could be used to get rid of a ton of rights. And I mean, look, man, like, the United States has no, like, there's no rights in the United States. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that era is gone. That era is gone. If cops want to come into your house and kidnap you and take you where they want to take you, they will. If if cops want to get together and form a brigade and start burning places down and shooting people, they will, right? Like, there's no fucking rights. Like, there's none of that shit. Like, if you try to go through the court system, well, the corporations own the judges. The corporate power structure owns the apparati by which you would actually pursue such a thing. So none of it's going to work, right? And take a look at what happened with Chris Hedges, right? So when Obama passed legislation to strip away habeas corpus, the Obama administration, the Chris Hedges and company fought against it, actually won a victory, got a judge to actually go along and be like, oh yeah, this is a problem. And then the Obama administration appealed it, and they didn't even hear the case. They just threw it out because they said, oh, Hedges doesn't have standing. So they just threw it out, right? So they didn't actually overturn it or appeal it or anything, because they just literally threw it out, right? Like, there's no fucking rights in America. Like, that's gone. That's totally gone. And the idea that the United States is a democracy, even, is a complete and total farce. It's a total joke to actually say that the United States is like, Roe v. Wade gets overturned and something like 80% of the populace is in favor of a woman's right to choose. Like, where's this democracy? Like, what are you talking about? This idea that America has anything even close to resembling a democracy. Like, the institutions don't respond to the will of the people. That the political class is completely bought by an oligarch class, without a doubt. One of the two major parties literally has a superdelegate system where appointed people who are appointed by the Democratic Party themselves choose the leader. Like, what's this democracy that we're talking about? Like, there's no democracy in America. It doesn't exist. It's got a lot of the appearance of democracy. There's a lot of, like, illusionary showmanship that happens. There's lots of shuffling around, right? And the only actual democratic structure that seems to exist with any validity whatsoever is actually the Republican Party. But the Republicans have been they've allowed themselves to be bought by the power structure that the only people who can make any headway are rich people, right? The richer, the better. So it's like, this idea that there's democracy in the United States, like, it's a total joke to me. I just found an article I think you will love, John. It's called My Advice to an Aspiring Economist. Don't be an economist. Maybe tomorrow, bud. I'll take a look at it. My eyes are... I'm struggling right now, bud. I'm hoping that I'm going to have some glasses tomorrow. I'm really hoping they're going to come in tomorrow. It'd be so nice if I had glasses tomorrow. Yep, just some advanced divide and conquer. Another step will override free will. Yep. Violence, or the fear of it, is the only effective instrument of social and political change. Video game. We are not advocating for violence, algorithm. Please do not ban my channel again. It is a political position. Like, fear is a political motivator, for sure. And there are theorists who say that you need to have fear in the conversation, right? That the political class seems to have forgotten that they are actually servants and they actually work for us, right? Like, if you owned a business and you had an employee that worked the way that our politicians do, you would fire them immediately. It wouldn't be a conversation even. You'd tell them to get out, right? Like, literally, you would have an employee basically who would be ruining your business actively. Like, there's absolutely no justification for this whatsoever, outside of I like money for myself. This was a great perspective 2 days ago on WSWS about the taking away of democratic rights in the current period. Yeah. You get the wall. Her name was... This comment was censored. Canada's getting worse too. Dude ran into an Indigenous person with their car, and the cops made excuses for the dude without even speaking to him. Yeah. All I did was take out the color description of the person, which I typed as 2 V's, an H, an I, a T, and an E. Yeah, dude, I don't know. Who knows what's going on with the algorithm ever, dude? Like, it's just a catastrophe. Like, this whole thing is a total catastrophe. Like, it won't be much longer until channels like mine are just removed. Like, this is the thing that I keep telling people, right? Like, it's not going to be too much longer until these things are done without any kind of pretending, right? Without any kind of shifting of the feet or any kind of excuse making, right? Like, that's the big thing. Like, there is coming a moment where these sorts of things are, like the Roe v. Wade decision, like these kinds of things are going to happen. Like, channels will be banned, people will be silenced, all this kind of stuff, and the statement will be, yeah, fuck them, and that's what it will be. It will be as clear. It will be as clear cut as that they won't even bother engaging in debate. It'll very much be, yeah, this person, like, yeah, we shut down John's channel. Of course we did. He was talking shit about us. Get fucked. And it'll be that clean. Like, there won't be any kind of philosophical discussion. There won't be any of that kind of stuff. Like, these moments are happening. For God's sake, Lauren Boebert stood up in Congress and said that she wants to see the church and state remerge. Hey Vince, how you doing? It's been a while. Well, the glasses are broken. I'm getting new glasses hopefully tomorrow, but certainly soon. Not a new place. I just shifted things around for a very selfish reason, which was so I could snuggle with my pug more often. I'm not moving. No, not yet. Although, we'll see. They're always raising the rent, right? Rent's always going up. Ontario NDP chooses Peter Tabuns as leader of interim. Yeah, interim leader of the NDP, Peter Tabuns, yeah. I wonder who they will choose to be permanent leader. I'm rooting for Joel Harden, but until the NDP actually start saying that capitalism is the crisis, I see no reason to give a shit about them. Like, they're a loser party full of losers who don't want to actually do anything important. Like, I've been talking to NDPers since their embarrassing loss. This is the most embarrassing loss an NDP party has ever experienced. I haven't seen a more embarrassing loss, right? Like, Tom Mulcair's loss to Justin Trudeau was unfortunate, but I wouldn't call it embarrassing, right? Like, losing to Justin Trudeau in that moment, it makes a type of sense. Like, it's got a kind of a Machiavellian sort of thing about it. Tom Mulcair was clearly not the guy that the populace wanted to vote for. So it's unfortunate, but I wouldn't call it embarrassing. Jagmeet Singh's performance since has been, you know, like, I understand why the Canadian people are not glomming onto him, right? And it makes sense. And his election performances haven't been embarrassing. Like, when Notley loses to the most recent iteration in Alberta, it's like, that's not embarrassing. It makes a lot of sense, right? This loss in Ontario is nothing short of extreme embarrassment. Extreme embarrassment. Like, they're losing power, losing votes, losing seats to the worst government in the history of Canada. Like, This premier in this province at this moment is ruthlessly sociopathic and incompetent, and uh, uh, and they can't actually mount an attack against it. Shocking, shocking. And then so I turn around and I start actually talking to these NDPers, and these guys are acting as if that didn't happen. These guys are acting as if, oh, we just need to keep doing this. This embarrassing loss that we all just experienced is fine. We just need to do more of it. We don't need to change our perspective or change our ways or do anything different. This is normal. This is fine. Right? So they're just a party of embarrassed losers, if you ask me. And they're just going to stay that way. So I don't see any reason to put any interest or power or anything towards them. They can come get our votes. And I tell them how to do it, and they say the stupidest, most childish shit I've ever heard. Like get completely fucked, NDP. Get completely fucked. Name capitalism as the villain. Capitalism is the crisis. If you don't say those words, we don't give a fuck about you at all. Like, I consider the NDP to be part of the problem. And the weird, like, you know when you watch, like, so, like, let's use a Harry Potter analogy. Here, yeah, this is good. So, like, the conservatives are like your Voldemort type figure, except in this case it would be like Voldemort, except he's, like, stupid, right? Like, really, like, just a fundamentally dumb person. But that's, like, the position, right? Like, it's like the head honcho villain of the piece, right? The NDP would be someone like Peter Pettigrew, right? You know, the little, like, rat critter guy who's just, like, pathetically sniveling all the time? That's essentially the NDP, right? Just, like, total fucking losers, just simping for this system that's actively betraying everyone around them. Yeah. The NDPers are just as bad as Trudeau's. Like, just do more, yeah. Watching Stranger Things. I haven't seen the most recent season. Honestly, I expect it to be not good, is the thing. I'm very mistrustful of media these days, and I don't really like, I'm tired of watching the good things that I like get destroyed. That's really the truth of it. Like, I have watched Star Wars get destroyed. I watched Star Trek get destroyed. People like Kirk, Picard, Luke Skywalker, even Anakin, Darth Vader, right? Our modern storytellers are incompetent, and I don't trust them, and I don't believe that they are actively trying to do right by these characters and by the populace. I really, really don't think that a movie made by or stuff that's made by Disney can be good. Like, I don't think they know how. I think we've gone beyond, like, incompetence. I think that there is, like, an ideological desire to destroy everything that was good in the past. That like our heroes have to be destroyed in front of us by this system. And I just don't, until someone I actually trust tells me something like this, which is like, oh, it's good, yeah, like, I'm not going to bother. So maybe now I'll try to... And I've actually heard good things about the new Batman. I was a bit like, you know, like, it's another fucking Batman movie. But some of the people I work with have said that it is actually them trying to explore, like, who Bruce Wayne is, right? Because that's always the thing with the Batman franchise, is that it's always about the glorification of who this Bat figure is and the myth and the mythology surrounding Batman. And I'm like, okay, can we have a movie that's actually talking about Bruce Wayne and who... all right, here we go, right? More dramatic, it's more anti-capitalist, anti-patriarchy. And my understanding is that it's trying to do a more honest, uh, portrayal of Bruce Wayne, right? Because that's always been my complaint about the Batman franchise. It's never about Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is just the little bauble, right? That the story is about Batman, and that Bruce Wayne is like his alter ego that Batman pretends to be every so often. And I'm to a point now where in my life where I'm like, I'm not interested in watching that story. I've seen that story enough, right? I'm no longer interested in the icon of the Bat. Who's Bruce Wayne? Who is this guy? Right? Because I see somebody who's suffering from a deep psychosis, obsessed with the death of his parents and taking the money he could use to resolve the poverty and crime in his society, and instead spending it on little toys to beat up homeless people. That's what I see. And until they make that movie, I'm not that interested. And people say to me that this new Batman is this, but here's my face. Is it? Is it? Bruce Wayne is seen as a victim of trauma more here. Has to deal with him being traumatized. It's interesting. The soundtrack helps too. Yeah, I should just dive into it. And actually do a watch of it. Because, like, more than one person has said that they're trying to do it. I'm just kind of over it, you know? I'm just kind of over all of it. Like, they keep releasing new Star Wars shit, and I'm just like, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm not going to watch it. Like, this new Obi-Wan thing, I'm not going to watch it. Like, I don't need to see them also dismantle the legacy of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, I don't need to see them actively betray these characters anymore. Like, I don't need to see them shit on Leia and Luke anymore. I don't need to see it. Like, I don't need to participate in the dismantling of these, you know, powerful and important characters. I don't need their legacy to be tarnished any more than it actually is. I just keep watching old stuff. What do you think of the TV show 6 Feet Under? I never really got into it because I was in funeral services. So I think a lot of the appeal of a show like 6 Feet Under is that it's a bit... Like, I think the viewer feels a bit voyeuristic when they watch something like 6 Feet Under, or a bit like they're on a journey. Whereas six Feet Under for me was just my life for a while. And so I was like, so it's not, I was never drawn in, I guess, is my point. That a lot of the, like, sort of freak showery of it, or a lot of the existentialism that exists within the show, and a lot of that kind of stuff that I saw, I'm a bit like, yeah. You know? Like, I respect why people like it. I think it's fine storytelling and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it was too close to my life for me to be interested in it, I think. Ever since someone pointed this out, one thing is Western imperialism has done is convince Asian women they need to look like a white person. Yeah. We see that in the anime, how white the characters are. Absolutely. I think that's true. There's a YouTube video called Crazy Asian Makeup Transformation, Asian Makeup Removing Compilation, Instagram 2020. Yeah. It literally shows how much they try to make themselves appear white. Yeah. No, I mean, for God's sakes, in South Korea, there's a whole industry of doing surgery on their eyes to make them appear more Caucasian, right? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I enjoyed 6 Feet Under because it wasn't predictable when you pit it against other shows at the time. Yeah. Like, no, I get why people like it. It's just not, I just don't think I'm going to spend much time on it. I just don't think it would be like, I think the big reason why people like that show is because, like, everybody knows that this industry exists. Everybody knows that it's part of our lived experience, but nobody really knows anything about it. Nobody's spent any time on it. And so there's this, like, there's a word that I'm really reaching for that it's just not coming up. Like, so it's like You get to see it. So there's like a freak showishness to it, where you get this like you get to leer at the reality that you know exists and the mortality of it and all of that kind of stuff, right? Like, so it's it's spending a part of your time in your life that you spend in entertainment. Yeah, like Taboo, I think you get where I'm trying to go with this, but there's just it's like a voyeuristic, like you get to watch death, right? You get to, yeah, morbid. There's a morbid curiosity to it. Yes. Now we're getting closer to the mark, right? The morbidity, right? The like leering at the kind of grotesquerie of it, and simultaneously like reveling in the sympathy of the characters as they go through this, right? So there is that kind of aspect to it. I really do get it. Like, I get why people like it, but like, you know, once you see the meat made, right? And I was in the funeral service industry for a year, a little over a year, you know. So when I watch a show, like, it doesn't, that my morbid curiosity has been sated. I'm not, I don't get the same thing out of it that I think other people get. Yeah, Major. I barely watch movies now. I really struggle with movies. I just don't try, like, especially comedies. Like, modern comedies are a joke. Ha! Like, modern comedies are so fucking bad. Like, they're so bad. Like, they're not really funny. You know, they're not really interesting to me. And it really is like nobody wants to make anything because everybody's so afraid about the blowback. And so they make this just tepid, pointless drivel with, like, Kevin Hart. You know, Kevin Hart's in basically every comedy now. And Kevin Hart's like the safest version of comedy that you'll ever find, right? Like, he's telling jokes about, like, a fight he had with his mom or something, right? Like, or like, which isn't to say that Kevin Hart's not funny. Like, obviously he is. He's probably the most popular comedian alive today. And you watch Jerry Seinfeld's new stand-up special, and Jerry Seinfeld's stuff is great. He's a master craftsman, right? But, like, it's not translating into film. It's not translating into movies. Nobody's actually making anything. Like, where's like the satire? Where's the taking the piss out of Star Wars and superheroes and all this kind of stuff? Like, where are these films? You know, like, nobody's actually even trying to make, like, and I feel like it's rife. Like, it's just like there's fertile ground to do spoof movies and to do satire movies and to do all this kind of stuff. I just don't think they're doing them. Right? And I think they're not doing them because the people who have the capital to actually make such a movie, which would be like Disney, doesn't want to make a spoof movie of itself. Right? It doesn't want to spoof itself. And it's like, yeah, no wonder our society has like a big rod jammed up its ass. It doesn't want to spoof itself. Have you seen Pierre's new video going grocery shopping? He's really trying to get the working class populace vote. Yep, it'll work. Yep, meanwhile, Trudeau speaks at the WF. Jugmeat does TikTok dances. Yep. Thanks. We'll check them out. Have you seen Steins Gate? I haven't. One Piece. One Piece is good. One Piece is good. I've not seen the show 6 Feet Under. Started watching Desperate Housewives. Nice. Desperate Housewives is one of those shows that it is exactly what it is. You know, that's the thing that I like about Desperate Housewives. It's like, as long as you buy into the idea of it and the premise of it, you're gonna have a good time. You know, it's like Gilmore Girls. You know, as long as you accept what it is and you're just like, that's what it is, you're gonna have a good time. That's all. Meanwhile, Netflix looks at Squid Games and says, "Yeah, let's make a real life reality show about this." Good idea. Exactly, dude. Like, yeah, exactly. Like. We knew it was coming. Like, let's not bullshit ourselves, right? The second Squid Game was like, oh, this is like the top grossing show in Netflix history. Like, everybody loves it. We all knew that they were immediately going to make a real life reality show. Like, we all knew. Like, capitalism is shameless, right? That they're literally like, yeah, you know, that scathing commentary on capitalist society where people are pit against one another in a battle to the death to earn money? We should just do that. For money. And it's totally going to work. It's totally going to work. They're going to make a bunch of money. Lots of people are going to tune in. Lots of people are going to tune in, dude. And let's be honest, man, these capitalists have run out of ideas. Like, they're out of ideas. Like, they do not have... They've killed their artist class. They've absolutely eviscerated and gutted their artists. They've poured the creativity of the nation into lattes. So no new ideas are being generated. The new ideas that are being generated are being excluded from the cultural apparati that are permitted to exist. If you don't work for Disney, you don't get anything made, right? And if you work for Disney, the only stuff that gets made is schlock that pushes forward this ideological agenda that they obviously have, right? Which people are rebelling against in big and serious ways. And so the only thing that's left for Disney to do, and I keep talking about Disney because Disney owns like 80% of the cultural market, right? They made, literally last year, they made 80% of the money that was made in entertainment. Like, Disney owns the market. And the only thing that they're capable of doing is trying to drive people to the theaters or to the storytelling using nostalgia. And because they're so disinterested in telling an interesting story or something good or something honest or truthful, right? Because they're so disinterested in that, they're betraying everybody because it's all they can do. They've got nothing left. And now there's a phenomenon that's begun happening that I think is disgusting, which is that people are actually going to theaters in order to what's called hate watch, right? They know they're going to hate what they watch. And so when they go, they're going to boo at the screen and to hate it. And so what's Disney doing? They're making movies for people to hate. Because that's who's actually paying for the movie, right? It's got that like 1984, like that, like the 2 minutes of hate kind of thing, where people actually like are going and paying money to boo, and Disney's all in on it, and they're gonna betray everything. They're gonna betray everybody. When it comes down to it, Disney will actually betray its own core principles if it has any, right? Like, it's no longer interested in telling good stories. Straight up. Like, it's no longer interested in that. I need to challenge this perspective a little bit more when it comes to Pixar. But even Pixar is starting to do, like, let's tell this the Buzz Lightyear story. The real Buzz Lightyear story. You know, that the toy was based off of. Why? Why? Just squeeze as much blood as we possibly can from this stone. Don't create a new story. Don't try to tell something interesting. Don't try to do something interesting, right? Don't take a risk. Don't present something, right? Just grab an old character that people used to love, dredge them back up. Switched from computer to phone. I was not willing to sit through another round of commercials. I'll die in this hill. You gotta do what you gotta do, bud. Those commercials are paying the bills. Those commercials are paying the bills, bud. That's what it comes down to. We're living in a simulation inside of 1,000 different levels of simulation. That's the only explanation. Sure. That's my position. Like, sure, okay.
I'm fine with that. That's as reasonable as anything else I've heard. Whatever gets you through it, man. Whatever gets you through it, you know. The I do like that the populace or that the society is starting to investigate the concept of like a multiverse or the concept of like interdimensional ideas have really entered the consciousness in interesting ways. Like I think that Rick and Morty was pretty responsible for that, but now you're starting to see it with like the multiverse of madness. That's really entered like the Doctor Strange universe as well, or the Marvel verse, or whatever the fuck you want to talk about it. And then there was that new movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think is the name of it, where it's like interdimensional kind of stuff. Sliders, yes, Sliders was like the OG. Sliders was like the OG parallel dimension show. Like they really they were. Was there another show before Sliders? Because like Sliders is like that's the core concept, right? Like Star Trek would do like an episode about that, but like Sliders was the first one to be like, no, there's parallel dimensions. We have a device that lets us go through. Let's go through. We're lost. Let's go through. Yeah, dude. John Rhys Davies, Gimli the Dwarf. Absolutely. No, Sliders was great, man. Sliders was like, and it really. What was great about Sliders is that every single time they really got to explore the idea of like, what if X was different? Like what? And so every time they jumped, it was an insular episode where it was just like, this is what's happening. The goal of the crew was always very straightforward. So narratively, each episode was very satisfying because they like show up. So the structure of the show was really beneficial for the storytelling because every single time you had structurally built into it the amnesiac, right? Like a lot of stories begin with a person wakes up or someone is teleported in. I was cryogenically frozen and now here I am, right? A lot of stories begin that way because it's the fish out of water. That's the most understood way to say it, where it's like you don't know where you are. As the viewer, you don't know where you are, and the characters don't know where they are either. And so as the characters are finding out what's going on, you as the viewer are also finding out what's going on. And so it's like you've got a buddy, right? You got a little buddy together and you're both, and lots of stories are full of this, where like a character is going on a journey and they're out of their element, they don't know what's going on, and you as the viewer are joining them in that because you don't know what's going on either. And so Sliders really had a structural had the structural benefit of that. So the first 15 to 20 minutes of every episode of Sliders is what's going on in this place, right? So the first act was just setting the stage of what is different here and what is unique and what is interesting. And then right at the end of the first act, they could tie in how does this difference, how does the party get tied in to the difference, right? So like in this parallel universe, anyone over the age of 60 is executed. That means you, John Rhys Davies' character, are over the age of 60, and so you are to be executed, right? So it takes the first act to do that, and then the second act is them struggling with that concept and what it means for them to do. And then the third act is them resolving it and then getting into the portal and leaving, right? Quantum Leap and Sliders have there's a real connection there. They're very similar in their storytelling, right? Every time he leaps, he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know who he is. You gotta go along the journey of discovering that. Tying into the character of Scott Bakula himself, and how it matters to him, and then Act 2, right? Dealing with it. What is his position? What does he want to do about it? Act 3, resolving it, saying goodbye, and then leaping, right? Like, so structurally, it's essentially the same, which and the overarching story is also the same, right? They're caught in this leaping through the different dimensions and the different realities because they want to get home, right? Sliders is good. I haven't seen it. Again, Engineered in Exile says Everything Everywhere All at Once is the best film I've seen in a long time. High praise. Happiness and Cyanide is a favorite. Yeah. So I should probably check out this Everything Everywhere All at Once, as well as this new Batman movie. I feel like both of those people have been telling me are actually good. See, I'm skeptical though, guys, and this is why I'm skeptical. And now I'm going to get into real arrogant territory. This is me really revealing how much of an arrogant asshole I am when it comes to movie viewing. Like, I have a background in film and television, right? So it's very difficult for me to turn off my deconstructionist mind. That when I'm watching something, I'm actively deconstructing it at the same time. It's very difficult for me to turn that off. Sometimes I have to actively turn it off. I've got to actually say, okay, John, just turn it off, experience it. And sometimes that's successful. I rather enjoyed the Lady Ghostbusters movie because of this. Because I went into the theater going, this movie's going to be a train wreck. It's not going to be any good. It's going to be really, really bad. You know it's true, John. Don't bullshit yourself. So just fucking turn it off, and just accept what you see. Accept what you see. And I actually got there, and I watched it, and I had a great time. It was a shitty film, not well done, real structural problems, but I had a great time. You want to see 4 women blasting ghosts with lasers? Have I got a film for you? I also feel like the whole, like, people are against this movie because of feminism angle was just a way to drive ticket sales. I don't think they gave a shit about that at all. I really, really, like, they knew they had a stinker. They knew it was not a good film. It suffered badly. It was not, they forgot to write a script. They really just kind of farted their way through it. Anyway. We started watching Quantum Leap again a few years ago. Terrible. Too religious. Yeah. Dude, you don't like the, like, what was that movie? Oh, what was that show that was, like, explicitly about, it was like angels. I keep wanting to say angels in the outfield, but that's wrong. But, like, there was a show where there were guardian angels, and every episode would be these angels coming in. Like, America's a hyper-religious place, and I think a big part of the frustration that the right has with what's going on is that at least media used to kind of cater to them, right? There used to be shows that were, like, explicitly Christian, and movies that were, like, explicitly about that kind of stuff. That's kind of been purged, and it's kind of passé. You can't make a movie that has actual angels. Like, you can't make a movie that's got, like, actual religious figures doing things in a positive kind of way. You can't have that. So it's very frustrating for the Christian right, I think, that they would like to see that kind of stuff. It made you feel something. I really love Ghostbusters. I've not seen the new film. I'm still unsure. Look, no, they don't capture the old energy. No, that it's not. Look, the new Ghostbusters film has structural issues, like major structural problems. It's a bad movie. It's a bad film, for sure. But, like, it's fun. Like, it's a good, like, popcorn fuck around kind of movie, right? Smoke a bong, drink, have a drink, trash this movie. Right? Highway to Heaven. That was it. Highway to Heaven. Fantastic. Michael Landon, yeah. Highway to Heaven, man. What a great show. Yeah, I just worry that I'm going to see this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and just I just worry that I'm going to be too suspicious or skeptical of it to really enjoy it. But at the same time, I feel like I can get over it. Like, I feel like I can get over it. I feel like I can sit down and just enjoy it for what it is, which is going to be like a gallivanting. Like, I don't know how it couldn't be a spectacle piece. I think that's the thing that draws me to it the most. That at the end of the day, it is, beautiful people in exotic locales. It's an actress who I like, who I'm immediately rooting for just as a person. Like, I want her to be doing well in the world. And she's gotten involved in this project where they're just going to basically, like, throw her into different crazy, weird situations, and crazy different things are going to happen to her. And so I'm just like, yeah, already, like, I feel like my skepticism of that movie has always been a bit, the Marvel universe is quite cynical now. Like, I'm quite suspicious of that studio generally, and the timing of this movie coming out with Shang-Chi, which she's also involved in, felt a little like there was like a kind of, it was cynical. I was very cynical of it, and like that cynicism has really manifested itself in a lot of the creative process. And so it's like, are they going to be able to win me over, right? And like, because if you go into a film like that feeling skeptical and feeling apprehensive, it's very difficult to overcome that. But I think I can. This is the thing, like, this is the reason why I don't want to watch movies anymore, because it's like, I feel like I've got to, like, do work. I feel like I've got to prep myself now. That I've got to be like, okay, I'm going to go in here, so that I've got to lower my expectations. I got to expect... Then I kind of just think to myself, like, man, I could have just spent the last hour, like, playing a video game, you know? Like, I could have spent the last hour, like, or 2 hours just, like, playing more Elden Ring, or playing, like, Heroes of the Storm or something, right? I could have spent those last 2 hours just taking a nap. Right? I could have just gone and taken a nap. God damn it. And instead, I gotta do this face. Before, I feel it's after. I have to make sure my brain's not infected by some radical idea. Well, and like, I don't know. I just feel like so much of what we're watching these days is stupid. Like, it's just fucking stupid, and it's insulting. Like, I feel like I actually feel like Scorsese actually had a really good point too, which is that, like, most movies are not actually cinema, right? They're like, it's like a roller coaster ride. That you're going on a roller coaster ride where it's like an event that occurs and it's very spectacular and there's a lot going on, but there isn't anything cinematic happening. There's no actual story being told. You don't actually get involved with a protagonist and go on his journey and experience the change that protagonist goes on, right? You're just on like a roller coaster ride of a series of events that occur, and then the credits roll. And I don't care about roller coasters. I actually think that roller coasters are quite mundane. Like, you're not in danger. It's like, it to me, it's not that much different from like driving a car really fast. Except when you drive a car really fast, you're in much more danger. Like, to actually enjoy a roller coaster, you have to there's a piece of your brain that you have to shut off. Right? You've got to buy into the experience of the roller coaster, you know? I've never found them exciting. I've never found them to be particularly interesting. And most movies are like that now, where you're just kind of on a roller coaster. And like, they're pretty sometimes, you know? There's a lot going on sometimes. But like, Are they actually like the original Matrix actually had an idea, you know? Like that's I think the thing I'm kind of talking about more and more is that there's not really any ideas in these films, right? Like I think about like the original Matrix is a good film to talk about because it was a bit of a turning point in terms of how movies were made and what happened. But like the reason why the original Matrix was good wasn't because it was spectacular, even though it was, but it was because it had in it a very interesting idea, and this idea that you're living in one reality, but that reality is false, and that there is actually another reality that you are unaware of going on, and that you can go from that one reality to another and open up your consciousness to it. It's actually a very deep idea that exists within the Matrix movies. Well, the first Matrix movie, because they essentially sold the whole thing. Like they destroyed the franchise as it went on. Which again, like I don't trust these guys anymore. Like they took a true labor of love that was based on a really interesting philosophical idea and betrayed it over and over and over and over again. And the Matrix 4 was like a betrayal within a betrayal. They like the people who were making the movie knew that they were betraying the franchise as they were making it, and they even comment on it. Like it's just like brutal, just like brutal. And the and like to me, what annoys me about modern movies is not that they have like radical ideas that I need to disinfect myself or something like this. It's that they're basically dumb and they think that I'm dumb. Like, like for fuck's sake, I know I say this a lot, but it's worth restating over and over again. Like, the Avengers movies were a fucking insult. And the fact that anyone is walking away from those movies feeling anything other than grotesquely insulted is a shock to me. They literally set you up with like 3 Iron Man movies, Thor movies, Captain America movies, right? They got all of these fucking movies, and then they build the Avengers movies on this. So you got this pyramid. They spend 10 years building this story so that they can be like, time travel. Like, for real. That's what happened. That, like, Thanos did his snap, right? Which is actually an interesting storytelling moment. The Thor comes in, gets him, but he still gets the snap. Everybody disappears, right? So you're like, oh, shit. Villain won. Oh my god, what are they going to do about it? Well, what are they going to do about it? They're going to invent time travel and then win. It was just like a total insult. The second it happened, I was like, fuck this. Fuck you. Fuck all of this. Fuck any... And like... That like Tony Stark died, and I'm like, so they have time travel. Who gives a shit? Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. They spent like 10 minutes going through like the whole cast at his funeral, being like, and the music was soft. I'm like, who gives a shit? Fuck you. Like, fuck you. It's like the whole thing was just one big farting insult that we were all supposed to just be like, oh yeah. Yeah, this is serious storytelling right here, guys. Look, an arms dealer died. Yeah, this is serious storytelling. Like, shut up. No, it isn't. They fucking invented time travel. Who gives a shit? And everybody's just like pretending like they like it. Like like is this where we're at? Like, is this how low we have fallen, that we're just accepting this Drek as like, and don't get me, it's pretty Drek. Like, the actors are beautiful, the set pieces are great, there's big explosions, there's a lot going on screen. The story is trash, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows the story is trash. Like, it's not a good story. It's not even particularly well told. Like, it's literally just like a series of of crazy things happening with crazy looking people doing it. But if you actually pause your movie at any moment and just look at it, right, you realize pretty fucking quickly how stupid this all is. It's stupid. Like, the whole thing is as dumb as it can be. With, like, nobody pausing for even a moment within the universe being like, no, excuse me, hold on. Like, whoa. T to the time out. What? Like, the whole premise that there's an arms dealer who's like the head of an international organization of superheroes. Like, I don't think we would accept that for a minute. Like, I don't think we would accept that for a fucking minute. Who? Who is this guy? Like, imagine if fucking Elon Musk showed up in a goddamn Iron Man suit and started saying, like, yeah, I'm fucking Iron Man. I'm gonna start blowing up the Middle East and shit. Yeah, we would just buy into that. Right? I also hated the way how Thanos lost that war, because he didn't really. Like, they just fucking retconned it. Like, and this is the thing, they keep like, even on some of the like lesser shit, even some of the shit that were like why would I care this much? Like what they did to Cruella, was a fucking abomination. Cruella is one of the great Disney villains. Like an absolute true psychopath. An absolute true just like crazed nut job lunatic whose goal was as childish and insipid and unlikable as any villain's goal could be. She wanted to kill 100 Dalmatian puppies and skin them to make a coat. Like, Jesus, lady. And then they take this character, who is just an unrepentant, just complete Looney Tunes lunatic, and they say, let's tell a story of how Cruella became Cruella, and they completely destroyed her. And they just made her something that she never was. Like, absolute betrayal, total, like, they tried to make her sympathetic and good, and I'm like, no. Like, Cruella de Vil is not a sympathetic character at all. She's a fascinating character. She's an interesting character. She's somebody we like to watch. But she's not redeemable. She's not good. Like, I'm not supposed to end the movie and go, I think I understand where Cruella's coming from. Yeah. No. What the fuck are you talking about? Cruella de Vil is evil. Like, obviously, right? Like, you're just lucky that her goal is only to kill a bunch of puppies, right? And they just betrayed her. The Glenn Close Cruella de Vil. Glenn Close nailed this, dude. Glenn Close's Cruella de Vil was actually really good. Right? This shit that they did with what's her face here. All right, guys. I've gone over time. Sometimes I worry that I'm a bit too grouchy, you know? Maybe I need to loosen up a little bit. I'm going to watch one of these movies today. I think I'm going to make it the Batman one. I'm going to do the Batman one. Let's talk about Batman tomorrow. Let's see if they did it. That's what I'm going to do. All right, guys. God, look how fabulous she looked. Like, look at this. Fucking fabulous. Fabulous. All right, guys. This is the end. Like, share, subscribe, tell people I exist. Weird episode today. We did it. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are paying hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.